Good evening and welcome to the Ibn Rushd-Goethe Mosque, the Mosque of Peace and Mercy, and to our Friday night prayer here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Language. The other week I had all my work done by Friday. It felt really good to go into the weekend without having to work any extra hours. Full of expectations for a quiet Saturday and an eventful Sunday, I went to bed Friday night and slept well. Came Saturday, I woke up, took my daughter to the station for her trip abroad, then took my friend to his theater rehearsal and went home to enjoy the day. It wasn't very long until I got bored and began to aimlessly walk around the apartment, and my mood started to shift towards something like annoyance, when I finally decided not to waste any more time, but to simply sit and read. The plan was to make it a nice day after all by connecting to a feeling I used to have in my youth, when I read a good book. So I went into my daughter's room, and looking through her bookshelf found The Island of the Blue Dolphins, a book I had read at approximately the age of 12 and had liked very much. I thought by reading it, I would conjure up that 12-year feeling of being completely content with the reality of the present moment. It worked. Soon after sitting down in my reading chair, I began to feel cozy and very relaxed, until I got to that part where the girl, who's the protagonist of the story, has a dog, and that dog has to fight off some other dogs, a battle over life and death, at the end of which the dog lets out a long howl. The book reads, "As he stood on the cliff, he gave a long howl, such as I had never heard before. It was the sound of many things that I did not understand." This was new to her, to the girl. The girl had had no problems understanding the dog when he, his name was Rantu, had been in her social setting. She knew when Rantu was hungry or happy, or when he wanted to go outside, because he used a language the girl could understand, a socially agreed language between the two. But when the dog was without her, In the setting of the wilderness and by himself, his language could only be understood by himself alone. I put the book down and thought about what I had read. The howl intrigued me. What was so special about it? It seemed to me that on the one hand, the howl was the language of its doggishness, maybe comprehensible by him and other dogs. But on the other hand, it had components of a language of his individual self that nobody could understand other than Rontu himself. As humans too, we have two languages. We have on the one hand the language that everyone can understand, the human language. God speaks to us through his prophets and his books in this social language, in clear words. We are told to feed the hungry, to pray and to fast, and not to use different measurements for us and for others. Outside the Quran, our social language is both verbal and physical. We know when somebody is happy or sad, angry or disappointed without words. We understand one another as humans. But then on the other hand, we also have another language, one that nobody can understand, sometimes not even we ourselves. A language that God knows also and speaks too. And we hear it and move through life accordingly. It is what Thoreau means when he says, and I slightly altered it, if a human does not keep pace with other humans' companions or with his or her human companions, perhaps it is because that human hears a different drummer. Let him or her step to the music which they hear, however measured or far away. When we read the Quran, it does not only speak to us in the social language, but also in this individual language. It is different verses that especially touch each of our hearts, because in all our common humanity, our hearts are also unique. To me, God speaks through the sunset. He speaks through the colors of the evening sky. To me, God speaks through the sound of the first bird in the morning of Ramadan, or through the gentle touch of another human, through music and through the silent solitude in the mountains, or through the smile and the tears of a child. And in the Quran, it is the verses of kindness that touch me, and the ones of comfort, like in Al-Asr. Wal-Asr, Inna al-insan la fi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu as-salihati wa tawasaw bil-haqq wa tawasaw bis-sabr. Another may be touched more by the verses that show strength or joy or yet other aspects of life. They overlap, those two languages, the social language of humanity and the individual language of each person. We're not two beings, but one. Our social language and our individual language, our social plight and our individual plight have much in common. Sometimes our language forms itself into songs that we carry within us. When I see the children in Idlib these days at the Syrian border to Turkey, the children who have lost their parents, those dying of cold and hunger, those that have no one to go to and nowhere to turn, I wonder what song is in their hearts. As I see young people die in fights that scare the living daylight out of them, I wonder which song they hear, and it scares me too, to think that my son is a young man. It is a myth. At some level, we each have our own song, and in another, we all hear the same. The American author and poet Carl Sandburg writes, "There is only one man in the world, and his name is all men. There is only one woman in the world, and her name is all women. There is only one child in the world, and this child's name is all children." And the atrocities of warlords and mighty nations who forget their humanness altogether, what language is in their hearts? What song, if any? Are they humans, or is there another word for such? Many beautiful Quran verses and hadiths speak to us as a common humanity. Some of them tell us ways to return what we've been given. What we've been given is bountiful. Let me read from the B, verses 3 to 17. They are for us all to hear, and some will move us more than others. So this one, from the B, 3-17. An-Nahl. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He created the heavens and earth in truth. High is God above what they associate with him. He created humans from a sperm drop. Then at once he is a clear adversary, and the grazing livestock he has created for you. In them is warmth and numerous benefits, and from them you eat. And for you in them is the enjoyment of beauty when you bring them in for the evening and when you send them out to pasture. And they carry your loads to a land you couldn't have reached except with difficulty to yourselves. Indeed, your Lord is great and merciful. And he created the horses, mules, and donkeys for you to ride and as adornment. And he creates that which you do not know. And upon Allah is the direction of the right way, and among the various paths are those deviating. And if he willed, he could have guided you all. It is he who sends down rain from the sky. From it is drink, and from it is foliage, in which you pasture animals. He causes to grow for you thereby the crops, olives, palm trees, grapevines, and from all the fruits. Indeed, and that is a sign for a people who give thought. And he has subjected for you the night and the day, and the sun and moon, and the stars are subjected by his command. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who reason. And he has subjected whatever he multiplied for you on the earth of varying colors. Indeed, in that is a sign for a people who remember. And it is he who subjected the sea for you to eat from it tender meat, and to extract from it ornaments which you wear. And you see the ships plowing through it, and he subjected it that you may seek of his bounty, and perhaps you will be grateful. And he has cast into the earth firmly set mountains, lest it shift with you, and made rivers and roads that you may be guided, and landmarks, and by the stars they are also guided. Then is he who creates like one who does not create? So will you not be reminded? God spoke to the bee to give to the bee her special tasks. He speaks to the seas and all that lives therein to give them their special tasks. To the kawakib, the planets, he speaks. And he tells the earth about her purpose of collecting all that is done by us humans and to record it for the day of judgment. We as humans are given clear tasks as humanity also. One of them is to be thankful and kind. So what can we do to show our thankfulness? We can share all the good that we've been given. The good that we share is a sadaqah, a giving, but it is a giving other than the zakat, which is more like a tax. Sadaqah is what we give freely from our hearts to another person, an animal, or any part of creation. It can be money, food, a handshake, a smile. All good we do can be sadaqah. The following hadith is by the authority of Jabir. May God be satisfied with him. The Messenger of God, peace be upon him, said, "There is no Muslim who grows a field and it is not sadaqah. What is eaten from the field is sadaqah. What is being stolen from the field even is sadaqah. What the wild animals take from the field is sadaqah, and what the birds eat from it is sadaqah. And nobody visits it without it being a sadaqah for that visitor. Any smile is a sadaqah, and any good word. Sadaqah is part of both our languages, the social and the individual. It is tied to feelings of social responsibility and individual well-being, and of making sense of ourselves and our position in the universe. And God knows best.